So welcome to your coaching session. So today I'm going to be asking lots of questions to get more information about where you're at and what you want so that I can go away and make a plan about how to move forward from here. And so sometimes I might ask you a lot of questions about something. Sometimes we might skim the surface, just depending on where we're going, what I'm looking for. And I may ask some questions that sound a little bit irrelevant, but to me they're relevant because I'm trying to put the puzzle together of where everything's at. Okay, so give me a bit of an idea, first off, what we're working on today.
So I've got a word written here in front of me that pops up every so often for me, and it's where I feel I'm being judgmental because someone hasn't met my rules.
Judgmental because someone hasn't met your rules. Do you know what your rules are?
Yes.
Okay. Do they know what your rules are?
I feel they do. So part of it is probably working out, am I communicating it in a way that they understand?
Okay. And what does that kind of judgmental mean?
So I find if someone doesn't meet my rules, I'm then very, well, no, you're doing it this way, or why would you go that way? This is where it should be. Or it might even be where I'm sitting there having a conversation in a triangular form. They've asked me for advice. They keep jumping in, and I get to the point where I'm like, you're not following, respect, or you're not following the process of allowing me to finish, and you've asked for the advice. So how do we,
Okay. Where does it mainly come up? Is it home? Is it work? Is it anywhere?
Work.
Work. Okay. Does it ever come up at home?
Not that I've noticed.
Okay. How about with family, friends? Like outside of home, family?
Probably a little bit with my dad.
Okay.
And one of my sisters. But I mainly find it at work because that's where I seem to be in it every day.
Okay. And how long have you noticed that judgment coming up?
For quite a while.
Okay. Do you recall it being something that you did even, in high school when people didn't follow your rules, or school?
No, it's probably more so been probably only in the last 4 or 5 years and it peaks at a point where I get to that stage of, are you just going to listen to me? And so then I just clam up and say nothing more.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. So what would your ideal be like over a couple of sessions? What would you like to reach with this?
I suppose 2 points. In one, where I'm managing my response or my behaviour to it in a way that I feel comfortable and not frustrated, because I can't control what they do. So it's just more around me. Mm-hmm. But also a way that I can communicate to them that, because obviously what I'm saying is not actually getting across, maybe.
Yeah. As we know, sorry, I have a cat playing with a toy. As we know, communication is the response you get, and if you're getting, I'm stealing this toy. If you're getting a response that makes you frustrated, then figuring out a better way to communicate that is useful. Communicating.
Yeah.
Useful. I think a lot of times, I know that in my workplace, even still, sometimes there's an assumed communication, and we all know what can happen when that happens. So it's about both of those, but also, like you said, being able to manage your own response when something isn't done to your rules. So how do you know when, is it when something's happened, as something's happened? Can you give me an example of a recent experience so that I can understand it from the inside?
Yesterday.
Oh, tell me what happened.
So there's myself and another manager. We report up through to the regional director. Every Monday we have a catch up, and it's very much around what are the high risk points this week, what are some urgent points, what are some staffing points, and we go through the updates. Comes to my update, I'm also the HR expert within the team, so they also ask for advice around certain things.
Mm-hmm.
One scenario came up, they asked for advice. As I'm starting to propose the metaphors and the scenario examples, constantly jumping in, and then the two of them start having their own conversation, and I just sit there and I go, okay. So then I just quietly wait. They then open up and come back to me, sorry for interrupting, keep going. I usually find I get to the third point and they're jumping in with all the information, and I just look at them and go, it's probably not the right way, because I feel awkward after I say it. I go, if you can let me finish, this is what I'm highlighting to you.
Yep.
I have done it once before where they'll say something and I'll go, you've hit the nail on the head, and then I just stop talking. And they've gone, oh, so was that the advice you were going to give? And I'm like, yeah. But then I sit there and feel, I suppose, and this is where I've got to look at it, I feel as though in some ways I've not been heard to be able to provide the advice that they asked for.
Yep.
But then I should look at it probably from the perspective of, hey, they came to the realisation themselves.
Right. Which would be a nice way to do it if that's if that is the response that comes up. What does it mean to you when you're not being heard?
I feel very dismissed and disrespected.
Okay.
Especially when the triangular management team have made a commitment and it's actually been voiced.
Yeah.
We need to respect each other. We need to hear each other's voice. We need to, if we ask for advice, then we need to listen to it. And I sit there and go, okay. So yeah.
And you're not doing that.
Yeah.
Right. So when you feel dismissed, when you feel disrespected, then what happens?
I do find I get a little bit of a feeling through the throat, and it's like I don't know whether it's an air pocket or something that just sort of sits there, and I will actually find I freeze in the position that they've interrupted me in, so it's almost like I'm freezed in time.
Yeah, and one of the words you used before was you clam up.
Yeah. So I just sit there and I go, okay. I sort of watch the two of them have the conversation, and then they come back, oh, sorry for interrupting. And I'm like,
interesting.
Thank you for allowing me to come back in. But yeah.
Okay. Tell me, what would be different if you had a different response? If you did have that response of, hey, cool, you came up with it yourself, or yep, just go ahead and brainstorm, let me know when I get to jump back in, or something, completely different. What would happen then?
I feel the conversation would go better. What I also feel though is a lot of the time when the interruption occurs, it's me providing my update. So I feel as though I'm not being given the chance to provide where I sit in the situation.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. If you could see it from their shoes, somebody's shoes, whoever they are, do you think it would be seen in the same way or a different way?
I think it would be seen in a different way.
How so?
I think they would see it as, oh, well, we've got to the point, we've got the understanding, let's move on.
Okay. And where does that not fit into your rules? Because it doesn't.
I think it's just the onus of, it was my time to speak and I didn't get to speak.
Yeah. Okay. Are there other examples that come up when that judgmentalness comes up and it's not about that? and it's about how somebody's done something, or is it mainly having to do with when you don't get your time?
It can be a bit about someone's done something other than my time. So another example was yesterday morning.
Yesterday was a good day.
Yesterday was a good day. Great examples, because I tell you what, I put some things into action. So again, because I'm the HR expert, the HR system expert, we had a number of things that we needed to do in the system. Prior to Christmas, I found out what we needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it was wait until we had corporate advice via the phone. My fellow manager was trying to progress things yesterday. And I said to him, remember when we spoke before Christmas, we were waiting to hear from corporate because they were going to step us through the process. And he said, yeah, but I want to do this now. And so he started processing it in the system. And I posed the question and said, what do you think the outcome will be if doing this without the corporate advice? And he said, but I need to do it. And I said, what do you think the outcome will be if we don't follow corporate advice?
Yeah.
And he continued. So I'm sitting there judging him on that. And I sit there and I go, don't judge, don't judge. So I do the slap, my superficial, sort of thing of slap yourself in the face, Sharon, don't judge. But I'm sitting there thinking, you're not listening to me, or hang on, you're doing something that has actually been said not to do.
Yep.
And I think potentially the judgment comes is because I'm going to have to pick the pieces up.
Yeah, but that it still comes back, in a way at least, to dismissing you and disrespecting your point of view.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you mentioned that this has really only that you've been aware to you. That's not even a proper sentence, but you've been aware of it for the past 4 or 5 years. What's different in your job, in your career, in how you work?
Probably because I'm in a higher management position, so there's a lot more risk conversations, there's a lot more troubleshooting, and there's a lot more case management and so forth.
Okay.
Versus being in a 2IC role as such, I suppose.
Okay. So it might be an odd question, but how do you see yourself as that higher management person?
I see myself as a very confident manager, confident manager in that position. I'm very knowledgeable. I'm very open to ideas, open to conversation. It's not my way or the highway.
Mm-hmm.
I feel I'm a born leader as well, so I actually enable others to come into the conversation because, as I say to them, I'm not always the expert. You guys can be the expert in some of the things that you do. I'm just sitting here seeking advice and guidance from you guys, but I'm the one that then is the intermediate between, to the next level to advocate for the team.
Right.
I feel I'm quite confident with it all. I think what I find for myself is when I've had a couple of really hard knocks with previous managers, and I think that's sitting in the back of my head of, but if they don't hear me, are they going to know what I can do? Are they going to know?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you know when you've done a good job?
We get the outcome that we sought to get. There's a team dynamic that seems to be lifted and elevated. My manager's really happy. Get that sense within myself as well, though. You get that, that was good.
Would you believe that it was good if you didn't get the other stuff?
Probably not as much.
Okay.
Probably not as much.
So even from the sounds of that, a couple things that I've picked up on is that there's that externalness about this, and those hard knocks that have been from some of those managers in the past, that if they don't hear me, will they know what I'm capable of? And it seems you're looking at the procedure and the detail of that procedure. And when they're not following those rules and you're not being heard, then you're putting some meaning to that.
Mm.
And so what is that meaning? What does it mean if you're being dismissed, if you're being disrespected, if you're not being heard? What does that mean about you?
That they don't want to hear me, they don't value my input.
Mm. What do you believe about that belief?
I don't know. I have the hope that it's not that way.
But it's easy to make that judgment. It's easy to make that decision and create that belief that says, well, fine, they're dismissing me. They don't even want to hear from me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that done to somebody else where they, like you said, that triangular team, they hear what they need to and then just kind of move on to the next topic?
Yes.
And did that mean that they didn't have value over that person?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Have you ever been on the end where you're in the position where you've heard enough and you switch gears?
Not that I can say the way that they do, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It does. It does. And my guess is that comes back to your leadership, your openness, your leadership, your wanting to involve everybody. And also, most likely you follow rules pretty well. And the team has set these boundaries that say we listen and we are open and we listen to everybody. And if we ask for feedback, we listen to it the whole way through. But other people aren't always wired the same, as you already know.
Mm.
So if we had the ability to rearrange a couple things, one, your communication, like you said, and also your response to it, what would need to happen to those even thoughts that they don't want to hear me, they don't value my input? What would we even need to start to do to those thoughts, those beliefs?
Let them go.
Mm. And what would that mean?
Probably just being more confident in myself that,
Yeah, because you're confident, but it's interesting also when you answer that question about who are you as that higher management position. It was about the team. It wasn't actually about you. It was about the team. And it was about you as a leader, confident, open, born leader. And there's a difference between leading and being in a team. Who is the leader of that team? Because there might not really be one.
Yeah. Well, anyone can be a leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and of that triangular team, is there somebody that leads that or leads those meetings?
Yeah, so it's the regional director.
Okay. And does the regional director do the dismissal? Yeah. So that's not something that you can take leadership of, because in those moments you have to be a team member. So let me ask you this question. As a team member, what do you like as a team member? Like, I can tell you this, I kind of suck as a team member.
I really like collaborating. I really like collaborating with the team and being able to put my voice across, but also hearing from them as well, then, you know, I'm very much the visual on screen, so talking with them, putting things up, seeing where it all fits, what's the best fit. But also, I think as a team, supporting and holding each other up in the hard times. So when you've got really that push of getting something done, checking in with each other, where are we at, how are we going, who needs help, but also just the general conversation, laughter, that sort of stuff. So, you know, being able to not share everything, but have an understanding of who we are in the work environment, a little bit of an understanding of who we are outside. So we have that, you know, emotional intelligence to be able to go, okay, something's not quite right. Yeah.
Do you feel you have that with this team?
I feel I do, which is interesting. So with the team that I manage and then the management team that I'm in, I feel I have it with both.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
What would a little bit different level of personal confidence do? Personal workplace confidence.
I actually feel it would enable me to, in those triangular management meetings, if something was to come up, priming, you know, that they start having their own conversation, I'm sitting there going, that's okay. They've got to work through. They're having their own little to and fro about the information. That's all good. If they need anything further, they can come back to me. It might actually alleviate a little bit of, I don't know whether I put burden on myself to actually,
because
I've got to give this first.
Yeah, because I find it interesting that on one hand, there's that desire, I don't know if it's need is the right word, but desire for that external feedback. We're doing well, we get the feedback, we're, you know, on the right track, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, there's this, well, there they go again. That's about me. And I don't know that it is. You know, I think you hit the nail on the head, like you said before, when you said that they're, you know, they're probably done. They got what they need, kind of thing. A couple more questions. You mentioned some hard knocks by previous managers. What happened there? I don't need the story necessarily, but what was the effect of it?
I pretty much lost my confidence in management, especially with one manager. Very, very, what I would classify to be personal comments that, yes, I took personally, the way that they were priming. One example, I sometimes wonder whether what I've said sinks into your pretty little head.
Ooh.
So I felt very, very hurt by that. Another one where it's the same manager commented and said that I probably should reconsider my career path. So when I asked, well, where's this coming from? What's made you think that? I don't get a response. I just get cold face. And I was also to a point where none of my emails to him from me to my manager were being responded to.
Wow.
And when I approached him about it, he wouldn't answer. So I probably posed a very tough question, but I posed a question of, do you want me here?
Good for you.
I didn't get a response.
Of course you didn't. Wow.
So yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Now that triggered something. You're still holding on to that. I can see from your face. I can listen to it in the tonality that you have, that there's still something in there that triggers it. Where does it trigger back to? Like, do you remember as a kid ever being dismissed or feeling disrespected, or seeing one of your parents or grandparents or somebody else being disrespected? Where does that come from? Because that's a big trigger in there.
Yeah. It's interesting because I have one of the examples I did through PRAC, and I even think it was Coaching Foundations. To a point, I worked on it, and I have felt better with it. I had a Year 7 English teacher, parent-teacher night.
Mm-hmm.
Mum sitting next to me. My mother's a teacher. English teacher turned around to my mother and said, she doesn't get it. She'll never get it. She won't go anywhere. She just needs to choose something fundamental and, basically tread through life. My mother stood up and said, we are leaving now.
Go mom.
Yeah. So that was, Year 7.
Yeah.
I then found right through high school, I struggled with English.
Yeah.
But as
Her name wasn't Mrs. Princey Jones, was it?
No. And as my essay teacher would say, and as my eventually Year 12 English teacher would say, there's actually nothing wrong with your English. You just need a different way to find your voice.
Ooh. What was that teacher's name?
Mr. Haynes.
I think Mr. Haynes has a point to bring to us even today. Yeah. I'm going to agree with Mr. Haynes there. We just need a different way for you to use your voice.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else I need to know about this?
No.
Okay, very good. So my thought is it'll be something around confidence and finding a different way to use your voice. Mr. Haynes, very, very good man there. And possibly some extra clearing around, some of that being dismissed or being disrespected, not being heard, not being validated, all that kind of stuff, so that you have more of that confidence that you can bring into your team, into meetings, into anything, which most likely will change how you respond in those ways. And my hope is that you won't even think about it as not being heard or not being being disrespected or anything like that. And it's just, okay, well, my part's done, or something like that. Something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Miss Princey Jones was my teacher. She was my English teacher in I think she was year 11 or 12, one of the two. And she was horrible. And she told me it was either end of year 11 or beginning of year 12, something like that, that my writing style was horrible, that I would never amount to anything, that I should probably just not do the HSC. And if I'm going to continue to do the HSC, that I probably ought to get some sort of major tutoring to help me. And I was like, well, screw you, lady. And I said, well, what can I do? Well, there's no hope for you. If you don't know how to do it by now, then you're never going to do it. And so all of the assessments and stuff we had to turn in for our HSC, I just didn't. And like anything I needed to for the HSC, but on the lead up, I didn't. And I remember in year 12, we had to do our try mock exams, and I came second in the year and shocked her completely. And she asked me about it or said something about it, if you'd been turning in your assignments, then I would have, seen the improvement. And I said, yeah, but you didn't give me a reason to. There was no reason that you were ever going to help me, so why bothered? It's amazing what teachers can say and make an impact on us positively and negatively. And start those patterns and start those concepts and, but luckily not too late to have a happy childhood.
No.
Cool. Any questions for me?
No, thank you.
Okay, very welcome. Very welcome.